I've got a cylindrical piece at the top that is going to cap off my frame, and I've got this kind of odd shape down here that connects to my front fender here. And then I'm also going to have a cylinder which is going to actually act as the pivot of this object. So we've got three different pieces we're going to build here. So we're going to start out with this top one. So what I'm going to do is go to my Create panel, and I'm going to go to Geometry, and I'm going to use a cylinder in this case. Now what I want to do first is actually switch to my top view, just so I can see this, and I'm going to build a cylinder here. So I'm just going to click and hold and drag out a cylinder that's about the size of the front part of my bike. Okay, about the same width. Now when we release this, this is just like a box, and we're getting some height here. Now we can't actually see the height because we're in our top view, but what you can see is the height over here in the command panel that is fluctuating as I move my mouse up and down. So I do know that I'm getting some height here. So I don't need it to be real tall, so I'm just going to click at around 2.5 here. And I'm going to switch over to my perspective view, and we'll orbit, and we'll see that we have this little piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my move tool and hit X on the keyboard so I can see that, and just kind of drag it up and position it on my bike. So I'm going to go back to my front view, and this is not exactly sized up properly. It's a little large. So what I want to do is actually reshape this a little bit. So I'm going to drag this up and center it out just a little bit. And I'm going to go to my Modify panel, and I have a lot of segments in the center here, and I'm going to take those down. I don't actually need those right now. And I'm also going to take the sides down. Let's go down to like 12, because whenever we're working with editable geometry, we don't really want that many sides to start out with. So let's go ahead and convert this over to an editable poly. And what I'm going to do at this point is go ahead and actually apply a taper modifier to this. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go to taper. Now what taper will do is it will actually taper this object from one end to the other. So if we take our amount up, you'll see that it's tapering the top of this, and that's not exactly the right direction I'm looking for. So I'm going to type in 0 there and hit enter. So I'm going to switch the axis here. So I'm going to go to Y, and we'll adjust this, and that's still not quite right. It is a little bit closer to what we're looking for. Let's go to our perspective here. That is a little bit closer because I am looking for a taper like that. So what I'm going to do at this point is actually just rotate this object around. So I'm going to actually turn on this angle snap and rotate this along this axis 90 degrees. You see that number there, and when we're at 90, that's where we're going to stop. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this object back, and we'll go to our front view. Make sure that this is still lining up here. And again, this is still a little too large, so what we need to do is scale this down. So I'm going to go to my perspective and scale this in the X and Y. Okay, I need this to be a little smaller, but you'll notice that it's not fitting in my bike frame. So I'm going to make my bike frame fit to this object, because that really does not need to be that large. So I can do this by going to my bike frame, and I'm going to apply a modifier called FFD. And you'll see a couple of different ones. We have 2x2x2, 3x3x3, and 4x4x4. And I'm going to use this one here just because it gives me a lot of control points. Now what this does is it kind of sections off our frame into a box that is 3x3, okay? Or it gives me like 3 quadrants, okay, by 3 quadrants. Okay, so let's go ahead and expand our FFD, and we're going to select control points. And these are our control points, these what look like vertices here. And we can actually scale these in, and you'll notice how that's changing the front part of our bike frame. So now we're just making just that part fit, whereas it's not changing the rest of our object. So this is a really, really powerful tool that we can use to make some minor adjustments like this. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and turn that off, and let's go back to our object here. Now, if you're having trouble getting to where you can actually select another object, you need to actually turn off control point. So hit that one more time, and now you can select that. Okay? Alright, so let's go to our front view, and let's just see how this is lining up here. Now, I can imagine that this is going to be kind of tough to be able to see our object or see our reference image. So what we can do is actually hit Alt and X, and that'll make that see-through. So you can kind of see the reference image back there. Now, a reference image is not anything that we need to be exact on. We just need to get an idea of our proportions, and then we can take some creative freedom and apply any edits to that. Okay, so we've got this piece here, and let's go ahead and move it back just a bit because it was kind of cutting through my frame too much. So let's go ahead and go to perspective, and all I'm doing in perspective is just kind of looking at that. How is that looking? And to me, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we'll go to front, and we're going to build our next piece here. So we're going to build this right here, and I'm going to build this out of a cylinder. Okay, another one. So we'll go to cylinder, and we can go to our top view if we want to do that. Now you'll notice that I just switched it to top view. I didn't click on this up here like we have been doing. I've actually used a keyboard shortcut. So with top, it's actually T on the keyboard. Okay, so let's go ahead and build this cylinder out, and I'm just going to get a rough size here because I can size it up. Now remember, you need to get your height so you can see how it's fluctuating that value. So we need to click one more time to end that, and then we'll right click to end the cylinder creation process. So I'm going to switch to my perspective view. I'm going to hit P on the keyboard this time, and now I can orbit around that. So we're seeing some keyboard shortcuts here that's really speeding up our production process. All right, so let's bring this up. And what I want to do now is actually build this entire piece. So what we have, I just hit F on the keyboard there just in case. What we're doing now is we're going to take this geometry and we're going to build this entire piece here out of this cylinder using our editable poly tools. So let's go ahead and right click on this, convert to an editable poly. And we're going to use a couple of different tools here. First off, I'm going to use the inset tool. So I'm going to switch to perspective, hitting P on the keyboard, and I'm going to select this bottom polygon here. And what I'm going to do is actually use inset and give that an inset amount. So I'm going to take this up. Let's go to, let's type in like 2.8 here, and we'll hit OK. And I'm going to drag this down, and you can kind of see that we're getting this rounded bottom here. Now, if we wanted to add more resolution, we could go ahead and do that, but I'm going to wait just a moment on that. I want to build the rest of this geometry here. So let's go to our perspective and select this here, and we're going to do an inset on it. But we're not going to do quite as much. Let's go to 1 on this. So we'll just type that in, and we'll hit OK. And now I've got some geometry that I can choose here. So I'm going to select these 4 polygons right here because on my reference image I've got this little lip here. So I'm going to use the extrude tool and extrude that up, and I'm hitting the settings box, and you'll see that that's taken that way up there. So we just want to decrease our height on that. So we'll go to 2, and well, let me actually go to my, well yeah, we'll go with 2. That looks okay in our reference image. Okay, so we'll hit OK on that, and I'm going to hit extrude one more time, and we'll keep it at 2 as well. But with these polygons selected, I'm just going to move these in the X direction just to kind of separate that from my little piece here on my frame. Okay, so we've got that started there. And we also have a little lip on the back here. So we're going to extrude that just one time. but we're going to do 1 instead of 2. So I'm just going to type that in and hit enter, and we'll hit our OK button. So this is looking really blocky. It's not anywhere near as smooth as what we had before. So what we can do is actually use our NURMS and adjust that. Now, I'm not going to do that in this lesson, so let's go ahead and stop the lesson here.